explained to him how I wanted to use it on the show, because that would be a great thing to see a girl who's upper class kid having a baby, not married because she didn't want to be married, and the girls could root for her.
The show holds such an importance because it really changed the scope of how Black America and white America and the world, for that matter, saw Black people.
Wrapped both our arms around me like lovers would and whispered in my ear, "See? This is all that we were going to do."
Why the Cosby Show producers hid this scandal goes way deeper than a simple firing. Lisa Bonet was pushed out for being too outspoken. Sabrina Le Beauf was sidelined despite her talent.
From one of 3 new women to accuse Bill Cosby of. And just yesterday, a woman who says that she was 15 when Cosby filed suit against the actor.
Malcolm-Jamal Warner watched his dream spin-off fall apart right before syndication. Cosby's iron grip on the show fueled bitter fights with writers and networks. And while the series claimed to uplift Black families, critics say it sold an unrealistic fantasy that ignored real struggles.
Mom, you know what Dad's gonna do? He's gonna go down, he's gonna say, like, one little scratch or wobble, and then he's gonna say no.
Lisa was that girl, the artsy, offbeat, kind of mysterious one that made everyone lean in a little closer whenever she was on screen. As Denise, she wasn't just playing the cool daughter, she was the cool daughter. That free-spirited energy? Real life. But being the magnetic standout on a family-friendly sitcom came with a catch. She wasn't exactly fitting into the box Bill had carefully built. She was barely out of high school when she booked the role, but she didn't play by Hollywood's rulebook. Lisa wasn't trying to be polished or perfect. She was just unapologetically herself. And that rubbed Bill the wrong way. He ran the show like a brand manager with a mission, obsessing over how everyone looked, acted, and even lived outside the studio. And Lisa, she wasn't about to be curated. Then came that movie. She did this moody, gritty film with Mickey, full of dark twists and an intense, very grown scene that definitely wasn't PG.
Look, we don't go around murdering people, all right, Mr. Angel? What about you?
Bill was reportedly pissed, not just because she did it, but because she didn't ask for permission first. It didn't line up with the image he was protecting, so suddenly her spin-off gig vanished after just 1 season. Officially, it was framed as creative direction, but no one was buying that. Lisa was brought back to the main show, but it didn't last long. She was pregnant with Lenny's baby and pitched the idea of making Denise pregnant too. Bill allegedly shut that down fast. Having Denise as a young mom didn't fit the picture he wanted to paint, so instead of adjusting the story, they just wrote her out like she was never there.
I explained to him how I wanted to use it on the show, because that would be a great thing to see a girl who's upper class kid having a baby, not married because she didn't want to be married, and the girls could root for her.
Lisa eventually got the boot from the show. Official story, things like being late or hard to work with. But anyone paying attention knew it went deeper than that. Lenny even said in his book that her and Bill's relationship was basically unfixable. Lisa had outgrown the carefully packaged world the show lived in, and shrinking herself to stay just wasn't an option. Later on, she looked back on it with grace, but didn't sugarcoat it either. She never name-dropped, but it was clear that being on set drained her. It wasn't about acting or art anymore. It felt like she was pretending off camera too, and Lisa was never good at faking it. When the Cosby scandal exploded years later, she didn't say much, but she didn't need to. She'd always said the energy around him felt off. Not in a headline-chasing way, more like her gut had been telling her the truth all along. Once he got convicted and then suddenly released, people online started reaching for her reaction. A cryptic tweet made the rounds, but her team shut it down quick. She wasn't tweeting. She wasn't speaking. She'd said what she needed to years ago by walking away. Leaving that show cost her a lot. Big roles, safe paychecks, staying in the public eye. But Lisa wasn't playing the long game for fame. She was protecting herself. And honestly, Denise Huxtable is still one of the most unforgettable characters on TV. Not because the writers made her cool, but because Lisa was.
I don't know what you see when you look in the mirror, but your body is certainly not complicated.
When Sabrina got cast as Sandra, the super smart, put-together oldest Huxtable kid, it felt like a dream gig. Fresh out of drama school, huge show, millions watching. But once the camera started rolling, it became clear that being on the A-list cast didn't mean she was actually going to do much. On paper, her character had it all. In reality, she barely got screen time. No real arcs, no standout episodes. Just lots of smiling and being supportive while everyone else got the juicy scenes. And for someone trained to act, it was frustrating. She felt like the world was watching her coast instead of actually perform. By the 5th season, she'd had enough. Out of 25 episodes, she was in just 5, and yet still expected to hang around like she was part of the core squad. It made no sense. Meanwhile, she was itching to get back on stage, where she could really act. An opportunity came up to do Shakespeare, something she'd been dying to do, but she was still stuck under that NBC contract. And the rules? No outside gigs unless the network gave the green light. So there she was, benched on a major TV show, watching real roles pass her by.
Fine, Elvin. If that's the way you feel, I will just wear turtlenecks for the rest of my life.
It turned into this quiet little standoff. The producers were like, "You're still on the payroll, so show up." But Sabrina wasn't feeling the whole get-paid-to-do-nothing setup. She didn't sign up to be background furniture. She wanted to act. Like actually stretch, perform, do something. And sitting around waiting for a script that barely had her name on it? Not it. Things got awkward. The higher-ups weren't thrilled, and she wasn't backing down. So eventually, Bill had to step in and play peacemaker. Instead of letting it blow up, he helped work out a deal. Sabrina could stay under contract but also take time off to do theater, which, in that industry, super rare. Usually, once the machine owns your schedule, that's it. Sabrina didn't storm off or throw a fit. She didn't do it for headlines or attention. She just made a choice. She wanted to be proud of what she did, not just cash a check and smile through it. While some were chasing TV fame, she dipped out for the kind of work that actually fed her soul. And honestly, that move said more than any sitcom line ever could.
And Bill is the type of person that I respect him so much, and I think all of us respect him so much, that you as a child don't want to do anything that would hurt him or in some way cause him not to respect you.
When the show first hit, it didn't just shake things up. It flipped the whole script on what TV thought a black family could look like. And that was exactly how Bill planned it. He wasn't just the lead, he was the blueprint. From the jump, everything had to go through him. He made them shoot in New York instead of LA, not because it was easier, but because it felt more real. The way he saw it, this wasn't going to be some goofy sitcom with canned laughs and obvious punchlines. It was meant to feel like actual life. The kind of show where the funny moments snuck up on you, right in the middle of a real conversation. Writers had to keep up. They'd come in with their scripts, and Bill would pull them in last minute to switch things up. Rewrite scenes, change the mood. Improv something new. There were no cookie-cutter plots here. It was all about the quiet stuff. Awkward dinners, subtle parenting moments, the unspoken tension between siblings. Some execs thought it was too light. Bill didn't care. Real life was light sometimes, and that was enough.
I'm bored.
Really?
I've got over $3 million worth of books I bought in your room.
And yeah, he made it political when he felt like it. Like the time he slapped an anti-apartheid sign on Theo's wall. NBC didn't love that, but Bill wasn't about to make the Huxtables neutral. The sign stayed, no debate. To keep the emotional tone in check, he brought in this Harvard-trained psychiatrist to look over scripts, not to kill the jokes, but to make sure the family actually felt like a family. Bill would do the laughs. The doc made sure it had a heartbeat.
Calling all mourners!
But all that control, it wasn't always pretty. Bill had a fixed idea of what the Huxtables stood for, and he expected the cast to match it, even off camera. So when people like Lisa or Sabrina wanted to stretch out and do their own thing, he wasn't having it. Anything that didn't fit the brand, shut down on sight. Even with all the behind-the-scenes drama, that show really did something. It gave the world this funny, smart, warm black family that wasn't stuck in stereotypes. They had nice things, big dreams, and actual joy. It wasn't just background noise, it was a reset button for what black life could look like on screen. And it mattered. It opened doors. Writers, actors, producers. So many got their shot because of that show. And for a whole generation of kids, it was the first time they saw a family like theirs on TV. It made being a doctor or a lawyer, or just soft and successful, feel possible. Malcolm, who played Theo, once said the show helped get America ready for a black president. And honestly, he might have been right. That's how deep it ran. But then the whole legacy cracked. The accusations against Bill, the conviction, everything. Some people couldn't even hear the theme song without feeling sick. For others, it was harder because that show wasn't just Bill. It was bigger than him. It meant too much to too many people to be deleted like it was nothing. Will it ever be back on TV? Maybe, maybe not. Some people want to separate the art from the artist. Others feel like airing it again would just erase what happened to all those women. There's no clean answer. The truth? It was both. Groundbreaking and messy. Healing and hurtful. It gave people something beautiful and came from someone who caused real harm. And now, everyone's got to decide for themselves if they can still watch it, or if it's time to let it go. Let's talk about the allegations.
I've got over $3 million worth of books I bought in your room.
The show started off looking like TV perfection, America's favorite dad, a picture-perfect family, good laughs, clean messages. It felt like comfort food for the whole country. But behind all that glossy living room lighting and wholesome talk, something much darker was playing out. And it took years before people started connecting the dots. By the time the show was pulling in crazy ratings, being on set felt like the ultimate career boost. Models, actresses, newcomers, they all wanted their shot. Not just to be seen, but to work with him. Bill was seen as a gatekeeper. But for some women, what they got instead was a door they never asked to walk through. Eden was only 22 when she booked her small part. Just a few lines, but it felt major. Except the second she got there, things felt off. The way she was constantly being pulled toward his dressing room, sometimes by Bill, sometimes by people around him, was unsettling. By the fourth day, exhausted from dodging it, she finally went, just to get it over with. She figured it'd be a few minutes, maybe a weird conversation, but the door locked behind her. Bill came up from behind and wrapped her in this weird, tight hold, using her own arms like he was performing some kind of twisted show.
He then said, "Come here." Everything now seemed to slow down, and I had to decide swiftly what I would do. I stood up. Bill came toward me. When we were face to face, he asked me to turn around.
Then he whispered something that made her skin crawl. She left the room disoriented, shaken, and when she tried to say something, the silence was louder than anything else. No one asked questions. No one wanted to know.
Wrapped both our arms around me like lovers would, and whispered in my ear, "See, This is all that we were going to do.
Then came Lily. She met Bill the next year, and at first, he sold her the dream. Said he wanted to mentor her, protect her, even treated her like family. It sounded like the real deal, like maybe someone was finally looking out for her. But during what was supposed to be a regular acting exercise, things took a turn. Out of nowhere, he reached for her chest. She froze. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a switch flipped, and before she could even wrap her head around it, it got worse. Fast.
Next thing I remember, now he's not only pulling off my skirt and my jacket, but he's also taking off my stockings and my shoes.
Lily thought she was heading to a legit career meeting when Bill invited her to Atlantic City. He said there was a producer she needed to meet, someone who could really open doors. But once she got there, it became clear that wasn't the plan. She says he handed her a drink, and almost immediately, everything went sideways. Her body felt heavy. The room spun. She threw up, faded in and out, and at one point woke up to find him undressing her. The next time she came to, he was on top of her. Then the tub. Then the bed. It was all a blur, except the fear stuck. And before she left, he made sure to scare her into silence, telling her he'd end her career if she ever spoke up. Lily kept it to herself for years. Like a lot of survivors, she buried it deep and tried to move forward, but it didn't disappear. In 2021, she finally filed a $125 million lawsuit, saying the damage stayed with her, mentally, emotionally, physically. Just because it happened long ago didn't mean it stopped hurting. As more stories started surfacing, Eden couldn't keep quiet either. In 2022, she joined a group of women suing under a new law that gave survivors a window to take action. She brought up everything from the dressing room incident to how Bill whispered creepy things like owning the entire network. For her, it wasn't just about what he did. It was about the people who stood by, let it happen, and protected him while silencing everyone else. It was bigger than one man. It was a whole machine. Bill's team denied everything, said the lawsuits were fake, said the women just wanted clout and cash. But by then, the cracks were already showing. Back in the mid-2000s, court docs came out where Bill straight up admitted he got Quaaludes because he wanted to use them with women. He didn't say who, and he didn't spell it all the way out. But anyone reading between the lines knew it wasn't looking good. He'd already settled with Andrea, but that didn't quiet anything down. If anything, more people started speaking up. And then came the big one. He was convicted. Jail time. People thought that was it. But a few years later, he got released on a technicality. No retrial, no second hearing, just out.
From one of 3 new women to accuse Bill Cosby of. And just yesterday, a woman who says that she was 15 when Cosby her filed suit against the actor.
Even after that, for so many people, especially the women who came forward, the truth had already landed. And now, the legacy of that show is stuck in the middle. On one hand, it shifted the whole image of black families on TV. It opened real doors in the industry. It meant something. But behind all the perfect family talk and life lessons, there was a man his power, protected by silence and reputation for way too long.
New tonight, 10 News reporter Dan Haggerty talked to a local woman who was one of the first to come forward against Cosby. And Dan, she believes that there are other underage victims who could force charges against Cosby.
For women like Eden and Lily, coming forward wasn't about canceling a show. It was about finally telling the part nobody got to see. The part that never made it into any script. Because sometimes, the scenes that matter most, they don't come with a laugh track. They happen behind closed doors, long after the cameras stop rolling.
Oh, Dad? Yeah.
Malcolm was just 13 when he landed the role that would basically define his whole teen life. He didn't walk onto that set knowing he was about to be America's little brother. He just wanted to act. But once The Cosby Show took off, he went from regular kid to household name, with cameras following every awkward phase, every haircut, every eye roll. Playing Theo felt natural, but growing up while millions watched, that part was a lot.
We're sisters, but I think it's made me more sensitive to the wants and needs of women.
The show itself was already doing something different. Instead of leaning into trauma or struggle, it just showed a successful black family living their lives. Cliff was a doctor, Claire was a lawyer, and their problems were regular stuff. Kids slacking in school, messy sibling drama, awkward teenage crushes. The show didn't erase culture. Black art was on the walls. Jazz played in the background. But it also didn't make race the main storyline every week. It was about family, and Bill made sure the network saw it that way too. For Malcolm, being part of that mattered. But it also meant he had to be on his game all the time. He was balancing scripts, school, interviews, and puberty, while the whole world watched him try to figure out who he was. The fame looked fun from the outside, but off camera, it was lonely. There was no handbook for being a teenage icon, and nobody really talks about how weird it is to come of age on national TV. The pressure to be the perfect version of yourself all the time. That part never got its own episode. By the time the show wrapped, Malcolm wasn't the kid with the fresh fade anymore. He'd grown up, sharpened his skills, and was ready to step out of Theo's shadow. He didn't just want to ride the fame train. He wanted to build something. Direct, write, act in stuff that actually meant something to him.
I mean, that show holds such an importance because it really changed the scope of how Black America and white America and the world, for that matter, saw black people.
So when UPN came calling with Malcolm and Eddie, it sounded like the next chapter. A new sitcom, good paycheck, and a shot to lead alongside Eddie Griffin in a show about two friends running a bar. On paper, it looked like a win. But the second the cameras rolled, Malcolm knew he was in the wrong room. The writing? Too loud? Too over the top. He came from a show where the laughs came from real moments, quiet truths, emotional beats. This was the opposite. Eddie was pulling from that wild, no-filter comedy lane. Very Richard Pryor. All punchlines and chaos. But Malcolm, he wanted layered stories, grounded characters, something that hit deeper. Instead, he got a show stuffed with canned laughter and gags that didn't sit right with him. And things backstage, messy. Arguments with writers, clashing with producers, non-stop disagreements about where the show was heading. Even the cast dynamic got weird. Carl, who once tried out for Theo back in the day, was now on the show. And yeah, that added a little tension too. The whole thing felt off. Malcolm felt stuck. It wasn't the dream. It wasn't the growth. It was just noise. And he was already craving something real.
Well-write writers that have no motherfucking idea what it is to be a young black male. So when table read comes, me and Malcolm gotta tweak the fucking script. But we ain't getting the writing credit.
Malcolm stuck it out. Not because he was loving it, but because they were so close to hitting 100 episodes. That number wasn't just bragging rights. It meant syndication, reruns, long-term checks, financial comfort for everyone involved. So even though the set felt tense and the show wasn't what he signed up for, he stayed. It was like, forget the drama, let's just hit the finish line and cash in. Except, they didn't. The network pulled the plug at episode 89, just 11 shy of syndication heaven. The rerun money? Gone. The grind? Wasted. And Malcolm was left with a credit he wasn't exactly proud to show off. He didn't sugarcoat it later, said the whole thing was miserable. Not just the scripts or the jokes, but the feeling of being stuck in something that didn't reflect who he was. He'd gone from a show that changed TV to one that felt like background noise. It didn't sit right, but he didn't spiral. He stepped back, got quiet, and started building something more honest. Started saying yes to roles that actually meant something. Directed TV, got deep into poetry and spoken word. It wasn't splashy, and it definitely didn't trend, but it was real. And it was his. Malcolm was never chasing claps. He wanted meaning. control, a career he could stand by without faking a smile. And yeah, the world might always see Theo when they look at him, but the man behind the character, he'd been chasing something deeper all along.